Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about the battle for the soul of America. It is raging, and unless we recognize it, we're going to be in trouble. I want to start with an idea that I think we should all know instinctively, and it's this. There is a huge difference between wants and needs, but I'm not sure if we know that anymore. There's a huge difference between doing what is right and what is easy. But before we accept that, we have to be honest with ourselves. We have to answer a tough question. I mean, we are headed for some real dark times, man, and we can make it. But we have to ask some tough questions, like this one. Do we have the courage to go with our gut and stick to our principles and our values? Do we even know what those principles are? Well, according to the latest Fox News Dynamics poll, I hate to tell you, I'm not so sure anymore. I want to bring you over to the big board here for a second. You know, you got one of these in your house right there by the couch and stuff. You got to get one of these. It's like 47 feet big. All right, here is the latest numbers in the Fox News Dynamic poll. Just watch, because I'm going to try to piece them together kind of like a puzzle here. Preference for the government. What do you want from a government? Lower taxes and little bitty government, or higher taxes and big, huge government? Used to be that we were a little more fond of smaller government at 52%, and then we got really about 3 percentage points more fond of it here recently, 55%. This higher taxes and larger government we're not really interested in. Now, next one. We want lower taxes and smaller government. Remember that number, 55%. What kind of government does Barack Obama believe in? Bigger government, more services, say 77% of us. Bigger government. Wait a minute. I thought we wanted smaller government by 55%. Okay, so he's not like us, and yet his job approval rating, 63%. Why is that? I think it's because he makes us feel good. He doesn't bumble in his words, and he makes us feel good. He's kind of like, okay, he's the president, and yeah, I want to have that hope and change. But how much hope and change do we have? Next one, please. Is it possible, listen to this, is it possible for the country to go bankrupt? 61% say yes. The United States of America could go bankrupt? Next slide. How is that possible? 61%. Next slide. Raising taxes in an economic downturn. Should we do that? Should we? 69% say, no, that's a bad idea. But here's where we start going all psycho and schizophrenic. Watch this next slide. How about asking the wealthy to pay more taxes? I mean, if we're going up to Bill Gates' door and going, excuse me, Mr. Gates, would you please pay some more taxes? I guess maybe if we're asking the wealthy to pay more, maybe I would agree with that. But we're telling the wealthy, you're going to pay more, you dirtbag. 55% say yes. Wait a minute, but we say raising taxes is a bad idea, and the country could go bankrupt, and yet we're spending more money. Here's the secret. Who's rich? Who are we going to ask? You're rich if your annual income, $500,000 and above, 25%. You're rich if you make over $251,000 to 20%. You're rich if you make over $151,000 to 13%. You're rich in this country if you make over $76,000 to almost 20%. You're rich in this country to almost 10% of the population if you make under $75,000. How is that possible? You know why? Because it's not me. We don't see the rich as us. Move on. What is rich? 9%, under $75,000. Raising taxes in an economic downturn, bad idea to almost 70% of us. Asking the wealthy to pay more taxes, you see in the schizophrenia here, 55%. Here's where it all falls apart. Before, we were talking about what's happening with the country. What do we want? What do we need? We need smaller government. What do we want? We want to be able to make sure the economy doesn't collapse, so we want to tax the rich, but we know it's wrong, right? But it makes us feel good because the rich just isn't us. Here's the principle. Do you agree with the old adage, you cannot make the poor rich by making the rich poor? This is for every Marxist watching. Do you believe that? 72% of Americans, 65%, 84, 69% all say, yeah, you can't take the money away from a rich man and make a poor man rich with that money. Can't do it. Next one. We're doing it anyway. We're giving our money, we're giving our power, we're giving everything to the federal government. But what's happening? 54% said they trusted the government back in June of 2002. 54%. Now that number is no, we don't trust the government by 54%. So who do we trust? Next slide. Who do we trust? You or Congress? 60% of us say, I trust myself more than Congress. Only 60. Samuel Adams is spinning in his grave right now. Only 60% of us trust ourselves more than Congress. 27% of the dopes out there are like, no, Harry Reid's got it down. I love those guys. Next. Where does the federal government get its money? You know, maybe this is exactly why you should trust the government. Funded by the taxpayers, 65%. Has its own money, 24%. What, do you think these people are berry picking in the summer? Yeah, they're out mowing lawns, making their own money. That's our money, 24%. So what can we learn from all of these numbers? Well, I think it's this. I think that it proves that there are several kinds of people. There are really, really stupid people out there that we shouldn't listen to anymore. Also, there's obviously a good number of people out there that are the majority of people who know what's right. They're still looking, however, for the easy way to get there. You can't do it. And finally, there are the people who know what's right, they know what's wrong, and they act accordingly. However, that number is weak because you're seeing in those polls the eternal conflict in each of us. You have to ask yourself, do you know what you believe in? Do you know who you are? Do you know who we are? Do you know what your principles and your values are? Once you know that, you'll know we'll win. We'll win the battle for the soul of America. Just like they won back in the 1700s, right before the Revolution started. Right before the Revolution started, the founders were starting to second guess the Declaration of Independence. Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson, they went out and they took a pulse of the people. And Ben Franklin, he talked to regular schmoes, he went to the taverns. Jefferson spoke to the rich and the powerful, but they got the same message back. People believed in the common sense concept of freedom, that they knew best more than the government. And the most important thing that they both found out, talking to the rich and to the people in the taverns, is the people of America were willing to risk everything to get it. That's when they decided to craft the now famous phrase in the Declaration of Independence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Once we start to live by those words again, we'll be able to win this battle for our country's soul.